Hi, my name is Avinoam Frankel of the SAP Business One product management team, and I'm going to share with you the real power of web client analytics. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at, where is the agenda screen? Hold on. We are going to look at, here it is. Okay. We are going to look at the basics of web client analytics. I'm sure some of you are already familiar with that. We're going to have a review of the basics, and then we're going to dive into the power of user-defined queries and really show what we can do with web client analytics. And then at the end of the day, I'm sure that everything that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you much functionality and many objects that you are going to want. And we're going to give you the ability to download those objects. And right at the end, we're going to have a live Q&A. And to facilitate that, please, as we're going along, I'm sure you'll think of some questions. Please put them in the chat and we will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So, okay, web client analytics. In this presentation, I hope to convince you that web client analytics is genuinely simple to use. And at the end of the day, we've built the framework of our analytics in a way that is not just analytics functionality. It also enables business processing. And in particular, it enables the possibility to feed data to the end user while they're in the middle of their business processing so that they can consume that data at the right point in time when they need to use it. And that is the key point about web client analytics. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the basics of web client analytics. So here we're looking at the homepage, the web client homepage, and we are going to open up the basic navigation tool for all data in the web client, which we call the list view. And the list view is more than just a navigation tool. It is also an analytics tool. So here we're opening up the AR invoice list view, and every list view works in the same way. And every list view contains three primary views. The view that we're currently looking at, which is the table view. And then we have a chart view, and then we have a card view. And we'll look at all these views in progression. But first of all, let's have a look at some of the power of the table view. You see the fields presented in front of you and the rows of records, and we can change what fields we want to have in view at any point in time. So for example, if I want to add the sales employee name field, I can just add that field and hey presto, there it is. It's just popped up in the grid. And if I want to change the location of that field, we can select it and move it up. Let's move it up to next to customer name. And there we see the field is there. Now, when we're using the table view, a very, very powerful tool is the grouping functionality. And we can right click on the header of the field and select group. And that will group the data by that specific field. And when I say the data, here we see that the invoice totals, the document totals have been grouped according to the salesperson. So we can go further than that. We're not restricted to one level of grouping. We can click on the status and group by status as well. So we can see the split of invoices as to whether they are open or closed by per sales employee. And we see the statistics related to that on the right. So we can also ungroup if we want to, and we will do that now. Let's ungroup, and we come back to the raw data. So at any point in time, we can always export the table of data that's displayed in the table view. We can export it to Excel. There's an export to Excel feature here. Click on that and it generates an export file. We can click on the export file to open it in Excel. And there we see the exported data has been exported to Excel, and we can then process it in whatever way we might want to. Let's close Excel. Okay, so that essentially is the table view. Let's now move on to the chart view. And in the chart view, we can configure a chart if we want to. It's just a little bit quicker if I open a saved view. Every view that we create, whether it's a table view, chart view, or card view, we can save it at any point in time and always come back to it in the future. So let's open up the monthly sales by customer, a chart that I've saved previously. Now, at the top of the screen, the top of the list view screen, there is a filter bar. And this filter bar will always act on whatever's visible in the current screen. and we can save filters within a saved view. And one very, very important filter is what we call a date filter, and in particular we call it a date offset filter. Yes, we can filter our dates in the normal way by putting in a from date and then a to date, but we can also put in what we call a date offset from today. And it's best to show you with this example. So in this example, we see that there is a formula that starts off from minus 1 year begin, the beginning of last year, which is actually the 1st of January 2023, until ... minus January end, the end of last January, which is the 31st of January 24. And in real time, the dates in the brackets are displaying what the current dates are calculated for this formula, the from and the to date. And if I change let's change the end date here. So instead of going back to last January, let's go back to last November and then add Monday. Go to the Monday after the last November. And what that shows me is it shows me a date offset of going from the 1st of January 23 until the 4th of December 23, which is the first Monday in December. So when we're happy with whatever the date offset we want to work with, we press OK, and then we press Go, and then the data will update on our chart. So a chart isn't just a chart in the web client, it's also an analytics tool. So for example, I can select a column of data by selecting the column handle here. I click on it, it selects that column, and we can see at the top of the chart that all the data has been totaled for that column. That represents the October 23 sales were 2.581 million, and I can also see the data points related to the selected data points, and I can export them to Excel if I want to. And I click away to deselect the selection, and I can select the legend value here for Maxitech, the company Maxitech, and I can see that in the date offset period, we did 3.8 million invoice turnover with Maxitech. It's great. Let's deselect that. Okay, what we can do now is we can also change some of the parameters of the chart. So this is the measure field. We can define a measure. It's currently the document total, but let's say we want to see the gross profit as well as the document total. We can select that, click away, they're selected, and this is a stat column chart. I just want to change it to a regular column chart so we can see the gross profit next to the actual invoice turnover, and we can see the gross profit is broadly about 33% all the way through. Looks good for this particular company, and great, everyone's happy. So we can now move on. So that's the chart view. Let's now look at the card view. And in the card view, again, we can create a new card view, or we can open up a dashboard that I created earlier. So let's open up this dashboard, and we see lots of cards all presenting different perspectives of the invoice data, the sales invoice data. And what we can do is so you can see that there's a bunch of cards there, right? So what we can do is that we can enter in a customer code and press go, and all the cards will be simultaneously filtered according to the customer code, which happens to be the customer Maxitech. And we can see that even the top 10 customers is filtered by Maxitech. There is only therefore one customer displayed. And let's go and remove that customer code and press go again, and we'll see the invoice sales for all customers again. Now, every chart that you see inside a card is really a chart just like the big chart view that we saw a moment ago. And all the functionality there is also relevant here. So we can select, let's say, parameter technology, select that, and we see there's total sales for the relevant period, the date offset period is 8.669 million. And I can also lasso a region of data points and see what the total is for the entire selected set of data points. And of course, I can pull down the details button there and see the data points and export them to Excel from here as well. Let's click away to deselect, and at the header of the card, we can actually open up the source for the card. So in this case, it's going to open up the chart for this card. We click on it, and it opens up the heat map inside the chart view of the same list view. And we can then play around with the parameters. Earlier we played around with the measure field. Now let's have a look at a dimension field. And I want to show you a special type of dimension. And you see here, as I've pulled down the list of dimensions that we can select from, it just happens that they're all date-based fields. And instead of having a posting date, we've got actually 8 fields related to posting date. We've got posting date, then we've got posting date month, and then quarter, then week, then year and month, year and quarter, year and week. And this is what we call the date aggregation functionality. And this is majorly contributes to our analytics functionality because it enables all sorts of time categories to analyze our data with. So these are just fields automatically in any list view that we have a date field. We don't have one date field, we have 8 date fields. Any list view across the system. And that means we can filter on these date fields. We'll see that later on. And we can also select them in the charts, as we're going to now change from year and quarter to year and month. And we see now the monthly sales per customer instead of the quarterly sales. So that facilitates the data aggregation functionality, facilitates our analytics functionality. So let's go back to our card view, and that's essentially the list view. So let's move on from the list view itself, and we'll look at another one of our analytics assets, and that's called the general overview screen. And inside the general overview screen, we have several views. We can create many views, and we have several that are set up already. And this particular view, it looks like the card view of the list view that we were just in, but there's one fundamental difference. There's no filter bar at the top of the screen. And the reason why is that these cards come from all over the system. They're not just coming from, let's say, just the invoice data. They're coming from the sales data, the purchase data, inventory, GL account data. And there are many cards here. We scroll down the screen, we see it can create as many cards as you like. There's no restriction at all. And each one of these cards has its own independent filtering that is set within the individual card when we create that card. So let's see a few things that we can do with the general overview views. So let's open up a separate view in the general overview screen. And here's one. I like to show this. I've shown this several times before. You may have seen it. And what this does is it shows the last 4 quarters of many things. The first row of cards shows the last 4 quarters of net invoice sales. As I move down the screen now, we'll see that the next layer of 4 cards shows us the last 4 quarters of BP group sales, then the salesperson performance, then the last 4 quarters of top item sales, and then the last 4 quarters of the net invoice purchases. And all of this is facilitated using our date offset functionality by embedding the date formulae filters within each of these cards to pick up the last 4 quarters of data. Okay, let's show another concept within the general overview screen. And we're going to open up what I've set up what I call a template within the general overview. This is a special view that has been set up as a template. And we have 4 cards here. They all look the same, except for the second line. The second line in the first card says for business partner, then business partner group code, then salesperson code, then all business partners. Let's see how we use this template in real life. So we're going to come out of here. I'm going to go back to the home page, and we're going to go to the business partner, open up the business partner list view, and open up the business partner master data screen for the customer parameter technology. You see, it's parameter technology. And parameter technology is a member of the high-tech BP group, and sales employee is Brad Thompson. So with that in mind, at the top right, we've got this menu here called Views. And Views is a feature, an analytics feature, which allows us to link any view in the system from any list view and from any general overview screen to any master data screen and to any document header. And here we're in the BP master data screen, and we see that the first view that is available is this BP group salesperson all comparison, and that is the view that we were just looking at in the general overview screen. Except when I open it now, you'll see a difference. It will not have 4 identical cards. We see all 4 cards now are telling me different stories because because we've passed parameters for parameter technology to the first card. So we're looking at the sales for the date offset period that's relevant here for parameter technology, 8.7 million. And the next card is showing me the sales for the business partner group high tech. And then we see the sales related to the salesperson, Brad Thompson. We see he came in partway through the period. He's only totted up 4.5 million. And then we've got sales for the entire company during this date offset period. So, and this is all from the perspective of parameter technology. If we now go back to the business partner master data screen and go up one record to Maxitech this time, and Maxitech is a member of the business partner group construction, and the sales employee is Fred Hoyle. Now let's look at the views, the linked view from the perspective of Maxitech. We see Maxitech sales in the first card, then the construction group sales in the second card, and then salesperson Fred Hoyle compared to all the business partners. And that is just one way of using a view that we set up in the general overview screen. And we can also look at, it doesn't have to be the general overview screen, we can also look at views from regular list views, like the view that we were looking at before. You may remember just a few minutes ago, we were looking at this invoice history dashboard. And because we've opened it directly from the customer Maxitech, the link has automatically passed the parameter across to this view, and it's filtered the data out accordingly. And once I'm in the view, by the way, I can remove the customer name if I want to. I can press go, and now I'm working with all the customers, and I can then play with this view in whichever way I want to. If I want to find out more information about different aspects of my invoice sales. So let's now come back to the main menu. And with that, we've completed the first part of just reviewing the basics of our web client analytics. And what have we seen? We've seen the list view, we've seen the table view, the chart view, the card view, augmented by the date offset functionality and the date aggregation functionality. And we've also seen the general overview views, and we've also seen the linked view functionality. But it's now time to take a deeper dive, and let's go and look at our user-defined query functionality and more. So let's go to the accounting section of the homepage, and here we have one tile which allows us to enter into a pre-configured user-defined query, which I happen to have put together. This user-defined, everything from now on until the end of my presentation, everything is all about this single user-defined query. I'm going to show you many views, and each one of these views is coming from the same set of data, which is built from this single user-defined query. So let's look at the trial balance powered by a UDQ. Let's click on this tile, and we open up the trial balance, and we see the trial balance by year. Let's absorb what we're looking at. Let's open up, expand year 2006, and we see trial balance for L1. What does L1 mean? Well, in our accounts, we have different levels. We've got level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So in this particular user-defined query, I've defined L1 to mean level 1, L2, level 2, and so on all the way through. So we're looking actually at the trial balance for the level 1 trial balance for the year 2006 for our company. And I can expand on L1 and then expand on the current assets, which is L2. When we expand L2, we'll see the L3 accounts related to it. We want to expand on the receivables, and we want to look at the domestic receivables at L4. And in this particular company, there are 4 levels. So we've got L1 to L4. And we see the underlying, these are the journal entry transactions related to the L4 account, domestic accounts receivable. And as we move to the scroll to the right-hand side, we see that there are several fields which have the familiar yellow arrow, the link arrow from the B1 desktop, which we also have in our list views, and we can configure a user-defined query with yellow arrows, link arrows. Let's click on this link arrow to open up the source for this document. This transaction is coming from AR invoice number 2. And if I want to see the actual invoice itself, I can view more. And let's open up the invoice from our user-defined query view. And let's scroll down the invoice, and as I scroll down, I see, this looks quite interesting. I actually want to see the underlying journal entry transactions for this invoice. But I want to see it in a cool way. I want to see it in a cool way. I want to see the journal entry levels. I'm going to open up a view from the user-defined query, itself. And we're looking at this view. It's a special view which shows us 4 cards. The first one's showing me the level 1 accounts, the journal split by level 1 accounts, and then the journal split by level 2 accounts, the third card by level 3, and the fourth card by level 4 accounts. Each of these cards sum to 0. And if we are interested to see the underlying transactions, well, we're in the list view. We're just looking at the card view of the list view. All we need to do is just click on the table view of the list view, and we see the underlying journal entry transactions related to those cards and to this particular invoice. And while we're here, we're just inside the user-defined query. So all of the views that are available in the user-defined query are available here for selection. So let's select the trial balance by year, or maybe we want to see the trial balance for level 1. But hold on, what year are we looking at for level 1? Actually, we're looking at the entire history for this company. So let's put in, using one of the data aggregation fields that I saved inside this view earlier, the posting date by year, let's just put in the year 2023 and press go, and we're going to update the level 1 trial balance for the year 2023, and we're actually literally seeing the trial balance at level 1 from a level 1 perspective for the year 2023. So maybe I'm actually interested in the level 2 trial balance. I can select that, and there we can see level 2 trial balance. And why stop there? Let's move on to level 3. Level 3 trial balance. And move on to level 4 trial balance. And at level 4 trial balance, let's expand one of them, and we can see that the underlying transactions are below level 4. And we can go crazy here. We can have, here's a multiple grouping example. And just to show you, this is an example with 8 levels of grouping. All the 4 levels followed by year, quarter, month, and week. So let's now expand and drill down. You can drill down from level 1 assets. We saw this before. Let's do it again. Let's go current assets, receivables at level 3, domestic account receivables at level 4. And we'll open up, this time we'll open up to 2023 posting year. And within that, we see all the quarters. Let's open up quarter 3. Open up quarter 3, and then we'll open up September for quarter 3. And within September, we've got week, shall we go for week 37? And there we actually have a transaction. There was a transaction within week 37. So we've got an invoice transaction that was posted then. And if we want to, we can just get rid of the levels if we want to. Let's get rid of level 1 to look at level 2. Get rid of level 2 to look at level 3. Get rid of level 3 to look at level 4. And level 4 to look at the years. And then the quarters, 4 quarters. And then we see the months. And then we see the weeks. And then we come back to the underlying transactions. So it just shows the power of grouping within the table view. So let's now open another view from this user-defined query. And we can actually, because this is looking at all the journal entry transaction ledgers, looking at all the journal entry transactions, well, we actually can look at all the BP accounts and all the general ledger accounts if we want to. But let's not look at it from the perspective of this particular view. Let's actually go to the business partner screen. Open up the business partner list view and open up a single business partner, MaxiTech. And for MaxiTech, let's open up a view, a linked view. And this linked view is another view of the same user-defined query. Let's look up the account transactions related to the business partner MaxiTech. And we can see in this save view, it's because it's a linked view, we've automatically passed the parameter of the account name, MaxiTech, and the BP code C20000 through to this view. And this view was saved with an additional piece of information. We can see not only does it have the debit and credit amount and the amount column, but it also has the cumulative amount. And not only does it have the balance due, debit and credit, and the overall balance due, but it also has the cumulative balance due. And all of this was embedded within the logic of the SQL scripting. And if we go down to the end of the transaction list for Maxitech, we can see that the total of the cumulative amount is equal to the total of the amount column, in other words, the account balance. And as you would expect, so too, the total cumulative balance due is equal to the total of the balance due, which is also equal to the account balance. So this is a genuine BP account for Maxitech, all provided by this same user-defined query. Let's go back to the business partner master data screen. And we notice that for this particular business partner, he's used 88% of his credit limit utilization. Now, I understand my colleagues have told me that this Maxitech want to place another order. And the question is, do we want to, we're getting close to 100% here. Are we happy with allowing Maxitech to raise another order? So in order to do that, I really do want to see more information related to Maxitech. But I don't have the view currently on hand. So let's go and make a view. We're going to make a view. We're going to build a view. And we're going to build a view by creating a new link to an existing view. So we see the bottom left here, we have create new link. And we're going to give the link a name, amount versus balance due. And then we select which source, which list view, which view we want to open up to show our data. It could be from any of the system-based list views. It can be from any view related to the general overview screen. It could be any view related to the user-defined objects or user-defined tables. But in this case, we're only focused on our user-defined query, which is the journal entry transaction ledger. So let's select the journal entry transaction ledger. And now we have to select which view within the journal entry transaction ledger. And here's one that I built earlier, which I want to utilize now, the amount versus balance due. But that's not the whole story. We now have to create the link. So here's the link for the view. We want to link the BP code within the actual view itself and link it to the BP code in the BP master data screen. And the same with the BP account name. From the view to link that with the name in the master data screen. And the same thing with the business partner group, to link it to the business partner group, the group code name in the business partner master data screen. Save that link. And once we've saved that link, we can see the link is now available to us at the bottom of the list on the left-hand side. Now it's at the bottom of the list, but I actually want to change its location. I want it to appear at the top of the list. I like this view. I want to see it at the top of the list. So let's select it and move it up to the top of the list. We move it up to the top of the list and come back to the business partner master data screen and pull down the link view menu. And lo and behold, we've now got the amount versus balance due option at the top of the list. Let's open this up. And now what do we see? Well, first thing we see is that the parameters that we put into the link have been passed across. We've got the BP account name of Maxitech, the BP code has been passed across, and the BP group has been passed across. Truth is, we only really need, say, the BP code here, but it could be useful to actually see the name and the BP group as we're going along. So I put all three into the link. And in addition, this particular view was saved with two other filters active. So it was saved with the date offset filter, and it was also saved with a document filter. And we're looking at the AR invoices for Maxitech, where we could have selected other documents as well. And what's this view is showing me that the January 2024 invoice is still fully open. So I may want to think twice. It's been quite a while since then. I may want to think twice about taking another order for Maxitech at this point. I may need to consult with my superiors. So I can make that decision and then process accordingly. And of course, you can see here that as I scroll up and down, that all of the views, all we've done is we've just opened up a view from that user-defined query, and all of the views are available here. Okay, so we've seen many views, and I think now is the time to actually look at the user-defined query itself. Let's open up the user-defined query that is responsible for all of the views that we've been looking at. And here we have the journal entry transaction ledger query. We open it up, And we can go into edit mode. And here we see the SQL script. I'm not going to go through the detail now. And at the bottom of the screen, we see all the columns that are generated by the SQL script. And we can change the description for each of the columns. We can change, if we want to, the orange arrow, we can create a link for the specific data. And for the dimension field, for the alphanumeric fields are always dimension fields, but for numeric fields, by default, they are measure fields, and we have the option to select if we want them to be dimensions, but we're not going to do that now. But for every measure field, we can choose how we want the table view of a list view to aggregate. Do we want them to sum, average, count, show the minimum or maximum? How many decimal places should it show? And it shows the Business One decimal place options. We're not going to change anything now. Let's just press cancel. And of course, from here, we can open the list view. Every user-defined query can be opened in a list view directly from the query itself. As I showed you earlier, you can open it from a tile on the homepage, or you can open it from a linked view. And we can see here are all the views that I've shown you earlier. You've seen pretty much most of these views. Okay, there's one more thing we want to do. We've invested a huge amount of effort in creating all these views. So we go into the export and import views functionality because we want to export these views into a file which we can then import into another company. And so I'm going to select all of these views, and in particular I'm going to highlight, here's the journal entry transaction ledger views, and here's all the views. They've all been selected. And as I export them, I have the option to export them together with their links. So the links are then available in the imported company at a later point. So yes, I do want to do that. And very importantly, they also will export with all the SQL scripting. The user-defined queries will export with their SQL scripting. So let's press OK. And as we do that, we see that we export a file, and see at the top right-hand corner, a file which is date and time stamped, and it has a .vx extension. And that is the export functionality. And now I can see what you're all thinking. You're all thinking this. I've just shown you a whole bunch of really nice, I hope, really nice views and user-defined queries and links. Wouldn't it be nice if I could share that with you? So here are some download links for you. So please photograph the page or just take the link from the page. And everything that I've shown you is now available in this download link to, and in particular, the journal entry transaction ledger is available. I made this this query available for you previously just for SAP HANA. It's now available. There are two files that you can download. One is for HANA and one is for Microsoft SQL. And I should point out that the coding for the SQL is slightly different. Microsoft SQL is slightly different to the SAP HANA, but the functionality is very similar, and you can download these views, play with them, change them. You can add levels to them if you want to extend the code to additional levels beyond level 4, and you can distribute them to your customers. You can use them in any which way you want to. We're going to come back to this link. I'm just going to go to another link. I'll display all the links at the end. Also, please be aware that we have pretty good training, comprehensive analytics training. Please also take this link and access our web client analytics training. This training course will overview everything that I've discussed with you so far today and more. And please do take this link as well. I'll display the links in a moment again. So I just want to recap now before we go into the Q&A. I want to recap now. So we have seen our list view, our web client analytics functionality pivoted around our list view with our table views, our chart views, and our card views with the date offset functionality, the date aggregation functionality. We've seen the general overview views. We've seen our link view functionality, and we've also created a new link, and we've seen our user-defined query functionality. functionality. And all of this comes together to create an analytics framework that we believe is very simple to use. Once you know how to use one list view, you know how to use all of them. And very importantly, as facilitated in particular by the linked view functionality, we can enable micro business processing, feeding the right information to the end user in the middle of their business processing so that they get the right information at the right time when they need it. So that I give you Web Client Analytics. Before we go into the Q&A, I just want to ask and answer a few questions which I think all of you will probably wanting to know the answer to. So the first question is, what are we planning to do in Web Client Analytics? Well, we do have plans for many things, but I'm going to tell you about one thing that we are planning. We are planning to extend our our link view functionality. At the moment, the link view functionality is available for the business partner master data screens and also for the headers, the document headers, AR and AP document headers. We're going to extend it so that in addition to that, it will also become available for the document lines. So if we want to link a view, select, let's say, multiple items on the document lines of a particular invoice and see all the prices related to them, we can open up a linked view with showing all the prices, let's say, related to the item selected. And also we want to enable all of our list view table grids so that we can also link views to every single list view. So we can daisy chain link list views together via links, and that will really enhance our ability to link data together and access data from right across the system. So that's one area that we are planning to develop hopefully in the near future. And you might also ask me, hold on a second, we've got all of these Business One reporting assets within the Business One desktop. What about all of them? What are we going to bring them into the web client? And the answer is, of course we are. It will take us a certain amount of time to do it. And what we're doing is we've built up the analytical framework within which to host all of these reports. And I should point out that, for example, the journal entry transaction ledger that I just showed you, that already contains, for example, quite a good percentage of the sales analysis and the purchase analysis reporting, and is just available there, even just within that query. And what we have in our mind's eye is that we want to provide as much generic reporting as possible so that it's easy to use and it's also easy to adapt, both from a partner perspective and also for the end user customer perspective. So we're thinking about providing boilerplate templates of many, for example, user-defined queries where they're read-only, but you can take them, duplicate them, change them, add fields to them, reposition, create all as many views around them as you want to, etc. So this is the thinking at the moment. And of course, we will need to expand the reporting platform in a generic way, if at all possible, to support this process. And the final question I think you might be asking me is, what about AI, artificial intelligence? Do we have any plans to integrate AI with, of course, analytics is just begging for AI enablement? And the answer is, of course we have. And yes, we are in the process of doing some very interesting things, but I'm not going to tell you any more now. Hopefully soon. I'm just going to whet your appetite and say that's coming soon. So with that in mind, I just want to hand over to my colleague, Karen, who will take all of your questions from the chat and ask me these questions on your behalf. And please add more questions to the chat if you so desire. So, Karen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. And thank you, Avinam, for the wonderful presentation and demo. So we have a few questions in the Q&A and some in the chat. So we'll start with the Q&A. I can answer the first one. You will receive the meeting recording, including the document with the links that Avinam presented. So you will get it in a mail, anyone who registered, and also it will be available in the partner portal with the same URL of the webinar I guess, to tomorrow or 48 hours. So that's the first question. The second question, is a year-to-date also possible to compare with former year-to-date analytics?
Okay, thank you for that question. And the currently, what we can do is you could do something a little bit innovative, like creating a general overview view and have two separate cards where you've got 1 year in one card and another year in another card. And year to date, yes, you can do that by using the date offset functionality, where the to date is using a formula called today. So it'll always have, and you can start, let's say, from the year to date. So you can go to the beginning of January, let's say, you can define that in the date offset formula to go from the 1st of January until today. So that's a simple way of putting it in the formula. And if you put two cards in a general overview view with two separate date offset formulae, you can have today, years to date, and you can put in the whole of the last year, let's say, compared to the whole of last year, etc. Hopefully that answered the question.
Great. And the next question was, can we filter the results with some special criteria?
Can we filter the results?
Yeah.
The results. Okay, I'm not sure.
So if the person wants to raise their hand, and then we can unmute them. You want to?
Well, I can kind of let's try and guess what. So it filter the results. So you've got you're opening up a list view. You can apply any filters, whatever. So let's say you've opened up a link view, which I showed you earlier. We could open up the BP account for a specific company. We saw the BP account, and that was a filter from, it was actually MaxiTech. We saw all the account transactions, and we could remove the filter at the top of the screen and press go, and that would have updated to show all the transactions for all the customers. So I don't know if that answered the question, but maybe.
Okay, yeah. And the next one is financial, wait, I lost it. I'll go back to it. Yeah, is financial report information also available? For example, balance sheets and profit and loss report, maybe also for 2 or more companies.
Okay, at this point in time, as I mentioned earlier, we have not yet started the process of transferring the B1 desktop reporting assets into the web client. And as I mentioned, the web client framework will be used in order to provide in as generic a way as possible all of our reporting assets, including the legal reporting, including balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow, etc., etc. So all of the reporting assets will eventually end up, hopefully sooner rather than later, within the web client environment, but in a hopefully magically much better, much more powerful way, taking advantage of all the web client analytics features.
Good. And then in one of the last meetings, there has been a promise to provide a query view for the trial balance. Do we get it now? So yes.
Yes, please look at the download link. It's displayed at this point in time. And it's more than that. It's not just at the last meeting, it was just the SAP HANA version of it. It's now both the SAP HANA version and also the Microsoft SQL version. I should also add, it's more than that, because even in the SAP HANA version, I've added aging buckets, customer or vendor aging buckets. You've also got that feature there for both versions. The same functionality applies to Microsoft SQL and to the SAP HANA versions of that user-defined query. And there are other user-defined queries as well. That's not the only one. There are other assets there that you might find useful, and there is documentation as well. So that documentation to take you through exactly what are contained in the import files.
Okay, great. The question, when there will be new functions like banking or production, I'd rather that we will focus on more of the analytics questions, but yeah, we will have new versions soon, like next year. So I suggest you will follow our updates, and we will have a dedicated session for that from the product team. The next question is, since which version are these features available?
Well, it's certainly available now, and some of the features have been coming in at certain points, and I off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly when which particular feature was introduced, but certainly I think everything I showed you now is in there in 2402.
Yeah.
But the import files, the import files will work from 2405 onwards. When you export from a particular version, you can only import into that version or a later version. So the import files will only work in other words, the download file here that you currently have access for, that download file will only be able to be imported into 2405 and higher.
Yeah, okay. And the next one is, can we combine data from multiple companies using linked views or UDQ?
Right at this point in time, we cannot do that. Will we be able to do that in the future? I know that we can, and it's just a question of building the right authorizations around it to ensure that the right people have access to that data. In principle, yes, we will be able to, and the question is when we will release that functionality. And we are definitely planning to release that functionality at some point.
Yeah, okay, great. And the next one is, could you share the links without QR? Yes, so Avinam will just edit your presentation and add the actual links on top of the QR. So yeah, we can do that later.
All right. I think what we'll do is we'll send out the link together. Are we sending out an email for the presentation?
Yeah, they will get from the system. They will get the link to
we should embed it in. We should embed it in whatever email goes out, and I'll need to provide you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And the next one is UDQ based only on, I think you already answered that, but based only on simple HANA query, or can it based on HANA calculation view output query?
Right. So in the download file, you'll see several examples of user-defined queries for SAP HANA built around calculation views. So yes, the answer is yes, you can use calculation views, and the documentation will explain to you how to adapt those queries for the import company. So of course, this is just an SAP HANA thing. The calculation views are only available within SAP HANA, and there are several special user-defined queries for the SAP HANA in the SAP HANA download file.
Okay. The next one is a bit long. Is there any manual documentation or course that explain all the functions contained in SAP Analytics so that partners that use B1 client, not web client, can gain some basis to enter this new world?
Have a look at our link to the web client analytics training, please, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best recommendation we can give. It's public, it's free. You can distribute it to your customers or your prospects. And this is the way to get into the web client analytics world and to web client in general, because you will see that we have the entire web client training on top of the analytics too. So are you planning on adding drill down for all filters fields?
I think so. I don't want to commit to that yet. And you may have noticed that one of the fields that's selected from all the different documents in the user-defined query field, that had a drill down for selection of all the documents, checkbox selection. That was automatic. Some of this functionality is automatic, some of it isn't, and we eventually, yes, I hope that we will eventually plan. I hope that we eventually will be providing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why can't the link export import file check for SPO version? The zip in SAP Note cannot be imported in Feature Pack 2402.
I'm not sure about that, but I can tell you that when we try to import, if we have anything that is, and this particular applies to going from SAP HANA to Microsoft SQL, if we have anything that is specifically SAP HANA related, for example, if we have a view that's based on a calculation view, we cannot import that file into into the Microsoft SQL. If we've got a file that doesn't have any SAP HANA related material within it, I believe that we will be able to import that file into the Microsoft SQL and the other way around. So there are limitations on what you can import from one system to the other. Of course, you can import from SAP HANA to SAP HANA, from Microsoft SQL to Microsoft SQL. But even if you import, I want to reiterate the point that I made earlier. Even if you import let's say you constructed a SQL script inside SAP HANA, then you import it into Microsoft SQL, it might not work because the syntax, the scripting syntax is different. You might need to just tweak it here and there and before it works. And the same thing in the other direction, going from Microsoft SQL to SAP HANA. So, but in principle, you should be able to get one thing working in the other, as indeed I did do in the user-defined query. And if you inspect both of them, the Microsoft SQL version and the SAP HANA version, you'll see there's slight differences in SQL scripting syntax.
Okay. Will you be able to create linked views that contain UDFs and UDOs, etc.?
Right. UDFs, so user-defined fields, are already available within the system-based list views. So, for example, if we're looking at the AR invoice list view that we were looking at earlier, all the UDFs related to the AR invoice are there, available already within the web client. So if we're creating a link view to that, the UDFs are there. So we can do that. And as far as user-defined objects and user-defined tables are concerned, yes, we have a list view related to them. We have various views that we can build within the list views related to each one of those objects, either the user-defined object or the user-defined table. And we can create links to those views, just like we can create links to any view.
Okay. Thank you. And then, is it possible to share views only with some users?
At this point in time, we have a public view option and a private view. So it's either just for me or it's for everyone. At some point in the future, I hope we will be building proper view authorization management, so we can select users that they are available for. So at this point in time, we don't have that feature, but it actually, I should actually add that it kind of is partially available because we've got authorizations on different screens. So but we can't limit which specific views. And if two people have access to the same screen, if we've got public views on both of those screens, they're going to have access to all of the public views. We have not yet implemented the ability to differentiate on a user basis. Not yet. Watch this space, hopefully. I don't know when.
Okay. And the next one, is it on the roadmap to provide calculated aggregations for percentages? For example, gross profit percent is a calculation of gross profit divided by revenue, dependent on grouping level selected by the user.
Ultimately, I would say, yes, we are ultimately planning to provide the ability to create statistics. We can already create very basic statistics. Let's say on the homepage tile, we can put in the invoice total for that's available within a view within a particular date offset period. And we have not yet developed that into a calculation, a more sophisticated calculation. And hopefully that will come in the future, but we're not there yet.
Okay. The next question is, can we access a roadmap? So the roadmap is available. You can look for it in the main page, the landing page of B1 on the partner portal. And yeah, it's public and you can access it. And then, okay, we're almost at the top of the hour, so maybe let's just make one or two. Can reports be exported only to Excel, or are other formats available for exports as well?
But actually exporting data at this point in time, we can only export to Excel at this point in time.
Okay. Will customer using SAP Analytics Cloud integrated with SAP B1 need to keep this solution in the future, or will the web client assume this position?
Right. B1 Analytics Cloud has got nothing to do with the functionality that I showed you today. B1 Analytics Cloud is like an additional application that connects with Business One, and it works in the way that it works. And what I've shown you today is native integrated within the infrastructure of the actual, the database, Business One database itself. And as a result of that, it will have certain advantages. And it is the analytics tools that I showed you today are part and parcel of the data access tools of Business One when you're using the web client. So there are two completely separate entities. Business One Analytics Cloud, sorry, SAP Analytics Cloud is another product that you can piggyback on top of Business One and continue to use it. I don't think there's any reason why we won't be able to continue using it. And separately to that, we have our own inbuilt analytics as well.
Okay, good. So we answered most all of the questions. We do have some question in the chat, but I think that most of them are repeating what we already answered in the Q&A. So I think we can finish our call. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and thank you, Avinoam, for the great session. And
thank you, Karen, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. Hope to see you soon.
Bye.